Hello guys, welcome. So today I'll be sharing with you 5 Canada visitors visa immigration questions, and I'll be giving you guides on how you can answer them. So let's begin. So the first question, as you can see on the screen, is what is the purpose of your visit to Canada? Or they could ask you, what do you plan to do during your stay in Canada? So look at the best response you can give. You could say, I'm visiting Canada for tourism to explore its natural landscape and cultural attractions. Or that's you either say this first sentence or you make it with this second sentence. I am visiting family and friends in Canada. Or if you're a student and you've been admitted to come into Canada to study, then you can say, I am a student admitted to study XYZ course at the XYZ university or institution in Canada. And here's a tip for you to know. So for tourist visitors, I advise that you have a travel itinerary handy to show the immigration officer if need be. You can reach out, you can reach me to get free template of how the travel itinerary looks like. I can provide that. You can just drop a mail and I'll do all to respond to you. So if you're a student or you're coming as a conference attendee, or you're coming with family invites, ensure that you have official documents that alludes that support your purpose of visit. So ensure all information you say in front of the immigration officer tallies with what you've provided in your application form. So if you have stated that you're coming to visit a friend in your form, then if they ask you questions, you say the same thing. Don't go say otherwise, because that could jeopardize your entry into Canada. So let's look at the second question. So the second question talks about how long do you plan to stay in Canada? Very important. And this is a template or a guide to how you can respond to it. So you could say, I plan to stay for a specific duration. So you mention the duration from the start date to the finish date, or to the end date, right? So as a tip, for tourist visitors, I advise that you have your travel reservation, or if you have been invited, you have your invitation letter and your return ticket handy to show the immigration officer if need be. So ensure all info you say in front of the immigration officer tallies again with what you provided on your application form. So for instance, if you say you plan to stay 2 weeks and on your form it had mentioned that you plan to stay just 5 days, that's the red flag, and that could be discrepancy in the information, and they could actually send you back, for that reason. So ensure that you do well to state same thing you've stated on your application form, and say the same way while you are visiting or while you are at the port of entry. Then the third question would be, where will you be staying during your visit? Another good answer could be, I'll be staying at, you mentioned the hotel name and the address and the city. Remember, the immigration officer needs to know that you are ready, needs to know that you are a genuine visitor. And one first thing, if you're traveling, is to know where you will stay. If you don't know where you will stay, then that could be a red flag. If they ask you where you are going to stay and you say, oh, you're blabbing and you're not sure, that could be a red flag. So ensure you have this at the back of your mind. Or you also, if you're not coming as a tourist, you could say, I'll be staying with dash 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 relation and dash 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 resident. So ensure that you have this information handy. Again, as a tip for tourist visitors, I advise that you have your hotel reservation, invitation letter, and return ticket handy to show the immigration officer if the need be. So if you can, know the name and address offhand. That's the name and address of the hotel, or the name and the address of the place you are staying. Know it offhand to show that you are ready to enter Canada. Again, ensure you have this. When people tell you, oh, I've been sent back to Canada, or they are sending people back, I've been sent back from Canada, or they are sending people back at the port of entry, it's not because they choose to, but because those persons have not done their due diligence. That's the honest truth, right? So ensure that if you do this honest due diligence, if you're sure that you are prepared, then getting in would not be a challenge at all. So that's why I'm actually making this video. Then the fourth question, which is the most popular questions, because most times people that have gone into Canada on visiting visas have choked the country with asylum applications. I've heard cases of where students who have gotten study visas get into Canada, don't go to school, and run and seek for asylum. So all those things are really messing up the system. So that's why this question is like the most important question you need to have an appropriate answer and a show of evidence to. And that question is, you have sufficient funds to support yourself during your stay in Canada. Like I mentioned, this is one of the common reasons why people are sent back at the port of entry. So be well prepared to prove this. And a very simple answer would be yes, I have specific amounts in my bank account. So you mention the specific amount to cover my expenses. Then you could go further to just show them these are my bank statements for them to see. Or if you're not using that route, you could say I have cash up to XYZ amount to cater for my accommodation, feeding, and sundry expenses. So if you're choosing to declare by cash, you can do, but ensure that your cash, so the maximum limit is 10,000 US dollars for international travels globally. So if you carry more than that, you need to declare it initially. If you don't do that, it could be a red flag, and they could actually confiscate your money and all that. So ensure that you have that done properly. Also, if you're not using the cash route, you can say I have a prepaid debit or credit card loaded with funds for my trip. Of course, you have to give them a physical card to show that evidence. So if you are using the bank card as a show of proof of funds, you might be taken to an automated teller machine to check if the balance on the card is enough as you've stated. So be prepared for the eventuality of this. I've heard stories of how people are actually led to the machines to check these things if they are real or not. So ensure that you are prepared and ensure you are honest about that information. So as a tip again, have all evidence of proof of funds, have them handy. Also know the total travel cost of your trip. So the total travel cost would include your accommodation, your ticket, and the sundry items, right? So know everything. So if your total travel cost is around 4,000 Canadian dollars, have it at the back of your mind and know how the breakdown is, so that you can well defend whenever they're asking you this related question. So the fifth common question would be, what do you do for a living, or what ties do you have in your home country? And the very simple answer would be, I am employed. You mention the job title, the company, and just add the number of years you've been working with that particular company. Remember, this information is already on your application form. So anything you say outside what you've previously submitted could raise a red flag, and you could get sent back at the port of entry. So ensure everything tallies. If you're not employed, if you're self-employed, you just mention you own and operate an XYZ company with good business and financial track records. Very, very simple and straightforward. So as a tip for you, ensure that you have the evidence to prove your source of living, your source of income. You could just go with your work ID card, just have them handy, right? Have your business registration certificates handy, have your tax records handy. In case if you have the burden to prove further these things, then you can just use them as supporting documents, and it makes your life easy, makes your entry easy, so to say. So yes, so guys, by preparing thoughtfully and having honest answers to these questions can increase your chances of a successful entry into Canada. Remember, the overall goal is for you to prove that you have ties that will bring you back home and not necessarily overstay in Canada. So you need to do your due diligence and ensure that these things are properly tackled for your successful entry into Canada. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. If you find this video very informative, like I always share informative videos, please like, please share, please also subscribe. I know most of our viewers are really watching and are not subscribing. Please subscribe. Please encourage me to do more, so that I can at least expand my own knowledge to this community. So until that next video, thank you, and I wish you, if you're planning to go to Canada, I wish you a successful entry into Canada. If you have related questions you need to ask, you can get back to me in my through my email. I would do well to respond to you. Thank you, stay blessed, and bye bye.